The film begins with a celebration held by a group of gangsters to welcome their new member. During the event, the leader gives a new member some meth and tells him to take it. Since he is still a beginner, the effects of the meth hit him so hard that he really struggles to handle the drug. After that, the leader gives a new member a gun and tells him to terrorize the local residents. Apparently, this kind of thing is a regular tradition that every newly accepted member has to go through. But because the drugs affect him so strongly, what was originally only meant to scare people ends with a young mother accidentally being killed. Not long after that incident, the new member also dies in an accident. From here, the story jumps ahead 3 days and introduces an elderly man named Harry. At his age, Harry has to live a pretty difficult life. Not because of money problems, but because Harry doesn't have many friends he can talk to. Every day, Harry changes his clothes before visiting his wife, who is being treated at the hospital. Unfortunately, whenever he goes there, Harry is often late because the shortcut that could actually make his trip shorter is known as a hangout spot for gang members. When he finally arrives at the hospital, Harry always feels sad whenever he sees his wife's condition. It's unclear how long Kath has been receiving treatment there, but her condition still hasn't improved. The doctors always say that only God can heal her because Kath's cancer has now reached stage 4. Usually, after visiting his wife at the hospital, Harry meets his friend Leonard Atwell at a bar. They just talk or spend time playing chess. But things are a little different that day because 2 young men are openly dealing drugs. Harry and Leonard can only shake their heads at the way young people behave these days. They even dare to deal drugs in a public place in broad daylight without trying to hide it.
It's not who you think he is, and the other one, he's in it.
You think Sid'd say something?
When night falls, Harry is startled by the commotion caused by the gang members. They are breaking into a car parked on the side of the road. The car's owner then comes outside and tries to confront them about what they're doing. Instead of leaving after being confronted, the gangsters beat the car owner until he is badly injured. The incident raises a big question about what the police are actually doing if things like this can happen so often. Later that same night, Harry wakes up again after receiving an emergency call from the hospital. Harry is told that his wife's condition is critical. Because of that, even though it's pouring rain, Harry forces himself to head to the hospital right away despite his age. But when he reaches an intersection, Harry once again hesitates to take the shortcut he usually avoids. The gangsters are probably hanging out there. Rather than risk causing more trouble, Harry eventually decides to take another route, even though it's longer. Unfortunately, that decision makes Harry too late. He misses the critical moment when his wife takes her final breath. The next day, Harry's wife is finally buried right next to the grave of their daughter, who died at a young age. It turns out that the young mother killed by the gangster at the beginning of the film was none other than Harry's own daughter. After the funeral, Harry talks with Leonard again and shares various memories from when he was still with Kath. Harry and Kath had been married for 35 years. They first met when Harry had just finished his military training.
A couple of medals somewhere. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said.
Toward the end of their conversation, Leonard reveals that things haven't really been going well for him lately. Every night, the gangsters keep causing trouble around his home, leaving Leonard with less and less time to rest. Unable to take it anymore, Leonard says that he plans to kill them all that night using the weapon he brought with him. Leonard hopes Harry will go with him, but after hearing the plan, Harry gives a different response. According to Harry, Leonard should report something like that to the police right away, so the gangsters can be punished for what they've done.
What are you doing with that?
I'll tell you what, I'll go to Len. No.
That night, we see the kind of trouble the gangsters have been causing Leonard. They set a newspaper on fire, creating thick black smoke. Their actions could obviously lead to 2 dangerous possibilities. Leonard could die from inhaling too much smoke. Besides that, if it keeps happening, The apartment building where Leonard lives could also end up catching fire. Leonard curses at them from his balcony before finally deciding to go downstairs and confront the gangsters. The next morning, Harry is visited by two police officers named Alice and Terry. They come to deliver some bad news. Leonard was found dead the previous night in a tunnel not far from his apartment. Harry deeply regrets ignoring Leonard's request earlier. Now Harry has to live his life all alone. Harry's suffering now feels complete. His daughter died when she was young. His wife died from cancer, and now his best friend has also been killed by the gangsters.
If there's anything you can help us with, Mr. Brown, please get in touch.
I don't need anybody.
Is he distressed or concerned about anything?
That day, with no one left to talk to, Harry spent the entire night getting drunk. While drunk, Harry accidentally empties his wallet, revealing several bills inside. At the same time, one of the gang members sees what happens and immediately makes Harry his target. While Harry is on his way home, the gang member secretly follows him from behind, intending to rob him. But just as the man is about to make his move, suddenly, Harry never expected something like that to happen. He had stopped killing people a long time ago after retiring from the military. But since it has already happened, Harry quickly cleans himself up and throws the clothes he was wearing into the trash. Harry is sure there were no eyewitnesses to the incident. Because of that, he believes what he's done is more than enough to cover his tracks. The next day, Detective Alice begins leading the investigation into Leonard's death. The investigation starts with the arrest of several gang members suspected of being involved in the previous incident. Among those arrested is one of the gang's leaders, commonly known as Noel. Noel is already well known for committing various crimes. But until now, the police haven't been able to catch him because Noel is always accompanied by a great lawyer. Alice, who was recently transferred to work in the city, has apparently already heard about this. Because of that, during the interrogation, Alice tries to avoid talking to the lawyer and chooses to focus on Noel. But there's a slight problem with the investigation. The police don't have strong enough evidence, and so far are relying only on statements from local residents. Leonard was found dead inside the tunnel Harry usually avoids whenever he goes to the hospital. According to local residents, Noel and several of his friends often hang out inside that tunnel. Based on those statements, Alice arrests them. Unfortunately, because there isn't enough solid evidence, Alice can only hold them for less than 24 hours before eventually being forced to release them all.
I've been stuck in here for fucking hours now. I'll stick it up your fucking arsehole with your...
Seems to me you're losing control.
After a fairly long interrogation process, Alice visits Harry the next morning to give him the latest update on Leonard's death. Reluctantly, Alice tells him that the police have stopped investigating the case. Although Leonard was found dead with several stab wounds, the weapon used to kill him turns out to belong to Leonard himself. That night, Leonard had deliberately left his apartment, carrying the weapon with the intention of driving the gangsters away. The authorities don't consider his action self-defense, but rather a premeditated attempt to kill them. The police also know that Leonard had been repeatedly harassed. But in this case, a different point of view completely changes everything. After hearing the explanation, Harry is obviously very upset with the police's decision. After all, the actions that eventually pushed Leonard to do something like that were partly caused by the police failing to take action, even though Leonard had previously filed a report.
Well, that may be true, but I have a problem.
What you say? Another word. That's it. He told me to talk to the police, and what did you lot do? These kids on the estate, you came here.
To calm himself down, Harry visits Leonard's home that day simply to remember their past together. But when he gets there, Harry finds Leonard's apartment in a complete mess. The unit where Leonard lived has been burned out. Meanwhile, almost every wall is covered in vandalism. From there, Harry finally realizes just how close Leonard's home was to the place where the gangsters usually hang out. They act extremely arrogantly, even going so far as to harass a woman who is simply passing through the area. After seeing all of this, Harry starts thinking that the police really are useless. In his opinion, it would be much better if Harry took matters into his own hands and punished the gangsters himself. That night, Harry leaves his apartment to find out where the gangsters' hideout is. Harry then follows one of the young men who had previously been dealing drugs at the bar. When he gets there, Harry pretends that he wants to buy drugs, claiming that he needs them to deal with his depression. Once he's allowed inside, Harry is shocked by what he sees. It turns out they're growing marijuana there. Besides drugs, the gangsters also sell various kinds of illegal weapons. Before making the deal that night, Harry's attention is drawn to a woman who appears to have been deliberately kidnapped to be used for sexual gratification. She is in terrible condition. From what Harry can see, if the woman isn't rescued soon, she could die. Because of that, throughout the negotiation, Harry keeps looking for an opportunity to launch an attack.
Look at me.
After taking out the gang members, Harry immediately takes the woman to get medical treatment at the hospital. Luckily, there's a car parked nearby, so Harry uses it to get to the hospital faster. Even so, Harry doesn't take the woman directly into the emergency room. He only leaves her nearby because he's worried that what he did will be exposed if he has to deal with the hospital's administrative process. After that, Harry goes back home. The next morning, Harry donates some money and several valuables belonging to the gangsters to a church. At the same time, Alice and Terry are arguing about the incident that happened the night before. According to Terry, the incident might have been caused by a war between gangs, but Alice disagrees. If it really was a gang war, why would they go through the trouble of rescuing a young woman and leaving some money in her pocket? Because of that, instead of settling on the theory of a gang war, Alice begins to suspect someone who seems to have benefited from the incident. That night, Harry plans to take action again, but instead of having to face all the gangsters at once, he thinks it would be better to go straight after their leader. After watching them for quite a while, Harry finally finds a major drug dealer who is the leader of Noel and his friends. That night, Harry secretly follows the dealer. Once he gets an opportunity, Harry certainly doesn't let it pass.
Wait, fucking wait!
During his hunt that night, Harry manages to capture a gang member named Stretch, who is also a close friend of Noel. Harry repeatedly tells Stretch to talk and tell him who actually killed Leonard. At first, Stretch tries to keep his mouth shut, but in the end, his efforts are useless because Stretch can't withstand Harry's torture. Terrified, the young man admits that he recorded what happened on the night Leonard died. Because of that, Stretch tells Harry to watch the recording himself, so he can find out exactly who killed Leonard.
Fuck off! Fuck off!
After watching the video of Leonard's death, Harry becomes even angrier. That night, Harry takes Stretch to the tunnel, where the gangsters usually hang out. With his body already covered in injuries, Stretch approaches his friend Noel to ask for help. But just as Noel is about to come closer, suddenly, Harry fails to kill Noel, who manages to escape while firing several shots. Meanwhile, Stretch ends up dying at the scene. In the middle of all this, Harry's internal illness suddenly flares up. By the next morning, Harry wakes up in a hospital under heavy police guard. No one suspects Harry, including Alice herself. The night before, the police found Stretch dead with his body covered in injuries. Harry was also found lying not far from the scene. At first, they thought Harry was another victim of the incident. But when Harry was about to be taken into surgery, Alice accidentally smelled gunpowder on Harry's clothes. After that, the story shifts to the police station. The atmosphere there suddenly becomes tense because their superior, Captain Childs, takes what happened the night before very seriously. In less than a week, 5 deaths have already been recorded around the area. Because of that, Captain Childs plans to carry out a raid in an area he has already marked. On top of that, more and more people are reporting that large amounts of drugs are being distributed in that area. Alice tries to oppose the plan. According to her, the police don't need to bother arresting the gangsters because Harry is the one responsible for several of the deaths. So Alice believes it would be better for them to focus their attention on Harry. But Captain Childs doesn't change his decision. Instead, Captain Childs transfers Alice to another division. Not long after that, Captain Childs' plan is finally put into action. Police officers in full uniform enter the apartment complex and force their way through every door. Based on a large number of reports they received, at least 14 rooms are being used as gang hideouts. Without wasting much time, the police immediately arrest anyone who looks suspicious. However, because the operation is carried out in a rush, chaos breaks out between the police and local residents that night. Some residents who never expected their children to be involved in the gangsters' criminal activities begin protesting. They even throw things at the police to show their opposition to what they're doing. The story then shifts to Harry. That night, he starts feeling better, so Harry decides to escape from the hospital. Unaware that the police have already started taking action, Harry plans to continue what he's been doing to satisfy his desire for revenge. The nurses on duty immediately report Harry's escape to Alice. This makes Alice even more convinced that Harry is involved in what's happening. Without thinking twice, Alice asks Terry to go with her to the scene to secure Harry. Unfortunately, the situation there is already completely chaotic because of Captain Child's operation. Alice and Terry's car is even attacked several times by local residents until they eventually get into an accident. Meanwhile, Harry takes the risk of going there that night because he wants to get into Leonard's apartment. Harry secretly retrieves the weapons that have been hidden there for a long time. But before Harry can take action, the sound of a loud crash outside the building catches his attention. After checking what happened, Harry finds Detective Alice and Terry seriously injured in the accident. Seeing their condition, Harry has no choice but to save them by taking Alice and Terry to the bar he usually visits. Luckily, the bar owner, Sid, is kind enough and doesn't mind Harry bringing them there. But this is where a fact begins to come to light. Alice asks Harry to stop his revenge. According to Alice, if Noel is killed, his uncle, who is also a drug dealer, will definitely step in to retaliate. The uncle Alice is talking about turns out to be Sid. The bar that Harry used to visit with his friend turns out to be one of the businesses owned by the drug dealers. This also explains why the gangsters were previously able to openly deal drugs there. The bar owner himself turns out to be a drug dealer. That night, Sid deliberately hides his nephew, so Noel won't be arrested by the police. But Sid also never expected Noel to go so far as to kill Harry's friend. The video stretch recorded earlier is more than enough to send Noel to prison. After learning everything, Sid apologizes to Harry and promises to turn Noel over to the police. But just after Sid says that, Harry's internal illness suddenly flares up. Seeing Harry looking helpless, Sid immediately changes his mind. While Sid had previously intended to cooperate, he now chooses to betray them instead. That night, Sid's true nature finally comes out. As someone with plenty of experience in illegal drug business, Sid doesn't even hesitate to kill a police officer. Terry becomes his first victim. Sid sees the chaos happening outside as the perfect opportunity to kill both officers. Sid plans to make their deaths look like they were caused by an attack from the residents. But Sid's attention is immediately drawn away when he sees that his nephew has been killed by Harry. Alice can still be saved, but now Harry's life is in danger. Sid only needs to pull the trigger to finish Harry off. But at the same time, Sid's heart is already in the sniper team's sights. While Sid and Harry were talking in the back, Alice had secretly called her fellow officers for backup. Since Sid is armed and threatening someone's life, the sniper team finally takes measured action. A few days later, the police hold a press conference. They confirm that the gangsters have been successfully taken into custody. The area that was previously considered a red zone has now become a green zone, indicating that the neighborhood has been cleared of criminal activity. There's no more drug dealing. There's no more bullying or harassment. Even Harry, who always used to avoid that road, finally feels safe enough to walk through it. The film finally comes to an end.